No intro today. It's not my show. I'm filling in. I went with the live panel because I figured that was the closest thing to what I do that Luke does. And he does the usual comics and nuts and bolts. He is going to be redoing the show moving forward. He wanted to kind of try to change it up a bit. So he took the week off. He's trying to figure out what he wants to do. I told him I'd fill in. So today we're going to talk about social media survival, not just in an election year, but in 2020, the year of a pandemic killer, hornets, big sand clouds from somewhere, hurricanes starting early, whatever it can be, it will be. So how do you survive that? I have with me the amazing Meredith from Terraform Comics. Meredith, tell them who you are.
Hello, everybody. I am Meredith, and I am the social media director at Terraform Comics. I am also a contributing writer and one of the editors for Geek Insider, as well as the editor-in-chief for Wild One Forever. So I'm all over the place. But I also do the Comic Noob, which is part of the Comic Book Advocates Network. And that is my journey into the comic book realm, from a story to getting something published. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
All right. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave this open for anyone who wants to come talk, to come hang out with us today. I barely do the open conversation chats these days, but I'm doing it today. It broke it up into like 10 things, by the way. I have to go to my page real quick and make sure that we're not set on personal, because that's what it always does nowadays with StreamYard. I don't know why. So we're going to talk about it. Let's dive right in. Times are difficult right now. People are upset over everything and anything. Some of it, absolutely understand it. I get you. I get the rage. I get the anger. I understand the need to express yourself. Some of it's just people looking to troll, and some of it's just people just, I guess, bored because of this pandemic, looking to get rid of some extra anger. There's been a lot of intensity turned up. And we're going to talk about how to survive it. And this is coming from from a guy who considers himself the indie devil. And I'm telling everyone it's time to chill out and back away. Step away from the keyboard. Put it down before you get yourself into hours of just yelling at people online. That's going to basically be today's topic. We'll talk to Meredith about this a bit because she's our social media guru over at Terraform Comics. But I do want to say that my general, even with the debates, I kind of stayed true to this. Don't talk about politics. We never talked about politics. We talked about laws. We talked about ideas. We never tried to talk directly about politics. Like, we never brought up candidates. But even still, when I was doing the debates, we did cross over lines. There was a time it was okay. You go back 6 months ago. Is it just me, or did the world seem different just 6 months ago?
Oh, I definitely feel like it was different.
Right? Like, just 6 months later.
You know what? I think it didn't help that we were all kind of forced into lockdown.
No, yeah.
You know, for the greater good, and what was supposed to be maybe a couple of weeks turned into a few months. And it's driving people crazy, I think.
I don't think crazy is a good word. And the only reason I say that is because I think crazy sounds like, oh, they're just, nuts. I think that there's an actual real epidemic that we're facing now. That just the taking away from, because every day when you have to go see someone with their face, there's humanity. And I think people have been removed from humanity so much. Like, everyone expected, the divorce rates are going up. We're seeing Hollywood couples breaking up left and right. It's getting treacherous out there. And people are just, when you have that friend, and I'm not going to say female because I've seen males do this too, because I know a lot of people make the joke, that sounds like a female. No, I know dudes who do this. When they're mad at something, they just won't tell you what they're mad about. That's what it feels like on the internet right now. Like, people are just saying something to be mean and cruel. And you almost can see, well, this doesn't really seem like you, because a lot of us have known each other for a few years. It's almost like, oh man, I hate to use the reference, but it's almost like there's a zombie plague, but the plague itself isn't that you don't die. It's that you don't know how to be fucking polite anymore. You don't know how to look at people anymore.
Yeah, but if you think about it, Rob, so many people who are now out of work because of the pandemic, right? They used to have a life outside of home. They weren't home so much. They had a life that was separate from their spouse or their significant other or their kids or anything else. And then all of a sudden, everybody's kind of mushed into the home atmosphere full time. Some people are not good at that. And I have to say, when I was much younger and my kids were younger, I've always been a worker. I worked since I was 15, 16 years old. And so I was not a happy homemaker. I was not good at it, but I needed that time to feel like, okay, I'm contributing to the household because I'm working, and then I could come home and I could appreciate my kids. But when I was in a situation where I had to be with my kids because that's what I felt like I had to do in order to save my marriage, it was I was resentful, and it wasn't that I disliked my kids or anything like that, but I just needed a break. And so when we're in this pandemic situation where you're not allowed to go out, or it's limited, and the kids can't go to school, so they're not getting that break from you either, and I've always said to my kids, they're grown men now, but I always said, listen, you don't have to like me at all. I'm your mother. You don't have to like me at all. I know that you love me, but here's the thing, I don't have to like you either. I've got my dog squeaking in her bed. I said, I don't have to like you, but I love you with all my heart. That doesn't mean I want to be hooked to, at the hip to them either. And you're finding this with your couples who are having a hard time because they don't have that separation of time. They don't have that, all right, you know what? I have this whole other life here. It's called my work life. And then I get to come home and I get to enjoy you for this section of time. It's very difficult and challenging. Now, my husband and I, we used to work together all the time. We used to have a deli, and it was kind of weird because the work dynamic, it was different. When somebody walked in the door, you put your smile on, you sold whatever you had to do, and then it was just like, okay, back to your corners and do whatever tasks you needed. That was necessary in order to have a smooth running, operating business. And by the end of the day, we were just so exhausted, we just fell asleep. So we didn't have time to argue or yell or, be in each other's crosshairs. I'm finding that these days, because we have so much time, and I hope it's less time to be on the internet, because the internet is really the devil and it's a total time suck. I'm hoping that people will shut it down. It's okay to shut down your social media. You do not have to be plugged in all the time. And I'm talking from the perspective of, I work from home. This is what I do. I'm online all the time under several accounts that I help manage. I do all my writing online. This is how I communicate with my teams. So I am plugged in, but I make sure that I shut down everything when it's time to shut it down. And when it comes to all of the messaging on social media, I was just telling Rob before we went live, I have kind of tunnel vision. When I'm seeing all the negativity and stuff like that, I don't pay attention. I kind of scroll past it. I don't even bother blocking people because they're going to do what they're going to do. I don't think that I could change their mind, and I don't have the time to debate or get into an argument or anything like that. I just don't have the time. So I scroll past it because, as Rob was alluding to before, people are, I don't know if they've lost their filter. I mean, do you think they've lost their filter?
Well, before we do that, I do want to just acknowledge some sad news. Speaking of things that are not great, Joel Schumacher has unfortunately lost his battle with cancer, and I did want to acknowledge that before any more time went on for this program. But as far as filters go, I think the easiest answer is that we've been heading towards this for a long time, and this is hopefully the bottom of the barrel with the way humans treat each other. We've always seen this in waves. There's always this time of people treating people poorly. And I've been saying this a lot, and I mean this. We need people to start loving again. And I don't mean loving like have, sex in any way or anything like that. And I don't mean romantic. I mean just showing their heart, being someone who can show humanity. It's very easy. Let me tell you, man, as a writer and as someone who grew up in New York, it's always easy for me to cut into people. I have made a career of stepping up to people, and no one ever realizes how much I hold back, how much I don't hit the haymakers I want to. I'm a little sarcastic. I've been a little honest, and I've been intense, but I've never crossed the lines that these people are crossing now, to the point of absolute discomfort. And one thing that is not uncomfortable is hanging out with David. David, welcome into our stream. We're talking about social media survival right now, because it's getting hectic. It's getting hectic out there. I saw, and this isn't a political thing, it's just the truth, that they're now saying their weekend at Bernieing actually Joe Biden, that he's dead, and that they have just not announced it, and they plan to continue this campaign now for weeks with the dead guy. And I was just like, how do you? And I was totally into it. I actually love the weekend at Bernie's, and I was like, please say this is true. I wanted to.
Oh my God! How much time have you spent on that?
Not even a little. Like, this just came up yesterday. Like, and I was like, this can't be true. I looked it up, and people are dead serious about this. And all I can think is Hillary Clinton hanging out with Biden and just walking around together. Hey, Biden's doing great today. Say hi, Biden. He's got a sore throat again today. Sorry, guys. But it's the stuff that people are saying. And I use that one as a joke. So, of course, I don't think Biden is dead. And I'm not saying which side to vote for. It's nothing like that. I'm just laughing at the fact that this is where we're gone. And that's a nice example. There are far uglier examples. So, Michael, hello, by the way, because Michael had said hello. Gary, hello, by the way. We're going to let David introduce himself now, and then we're going to talk about some more social media strategies and how not to get involved into having your day sucked away by something that just isn't worth the time.
I 100% agree. Hi, guys. I'm Dave Whalen. I'm the owner, creator of Correct Handed Comics. I have multiple books out. You can find me on my Facebook page at Correct Handed Comics. You can find me on my Amazon author page, David Whalen. You can find me on Twitter at Handed Correct, or you can find me also. I have for my ongoing series, The Offspring. It has its own Twitter page at The Offspring 00. You can find me in all those places, and let's talk about how the internet is mostly a big waste of time.
I have to give the internet credit, though. I mean, during this pandemic, it's been an awesome thing to be able to connect. I mean, because of it, here comes a crazy kid. Because of it, we've been able to actually form a publisher. If it weren't for the internet and the pandemic, we would have. Oh, there's a dinosaur head.
All right, I love it.
If it weren't for that, we wouldn't have been able to form this thing. So I think there's a benefit, especially during the pandemic. But on the other uglier side of it, it also. And I said we were having conversations about this, about people to avoid recently, and I was trying to point out, I'm for freedom of speech. The one problem with online is you no longer have freedom of speech. Because generally when someone's speaking, they're allowed to say whatever they want. You're allowed to walk away. But when you're on your profile, you don't get to walk away when someone's on your profile screaming and yelling. So I equate it to this. Would you walk around with someone saying something racist, ugly, and angry, walking right next to you as you walk through a supermarket, as you went through a gym, as you took your kids to school? No. You'd be like, get the hell away from me. I don't want to be associated with you. Why do so many people feel the need to allow these people to express themselves on your page? You get to be the moderator. That's your home. Treat it as your home. This is a great tip. If someone comes in to start a fight with you, don't go, oh, yeah, well, you know what? Stop. The minute you have to say, oh, yeah, you know what, go over, click that thing that says delete comment and let it go. You're not going to win. And this is the truth. And a friend told me this a decade ago. We did over 100. I think we actually did 300 debates. You can't educate people who don't want to be educated. You can't fix stupid. And you're never going to stop someone who's out there campaigning for whatever they think they're campaigning for. You could put as many facts in the way of a person as you possibly can, and they will tell you the earth is flat still. It happens, people. It's not flat. I'm sorry. That's the one thing on social media I will never be okay with. If you say the earth is flat, our friendship is over. I won't unfriend you, though. I will not unfriend you. I'm just going to sit back and watch you get beat up. That is entertainment for me. I want the flat earth reality show. I want to see them all find the edge of the earth. Please, please, please make that show. But again, what do you guys think about that? Do you guys go in and remove, like I've realized over the last year, especially when you remove the comments, it just stops stupid things, because your friend is going to get upset when they show up, and then they're going to say something about your friend is going to say something probably a little heated, and then it just suddenly you have two friends in your chat fighting. Neither one of them know each other. It's all a mess. What do you guys think?
Okay, so I agree with you. I have two major rules that I follow when it comes to social media and when it comes to things I see on social media or the news or any outlet. My first rule for me is communication is always 100% the key to success. And I think that communicating, especially about things, politics, whatever it is a very personal thing on some level. Facts are always going to be facts. It doesn't matter, what's the phrase? Facts don't care about your feelings. And I 100% agree with that. But I think that my first rule is a good one, is I have my opinions about liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, whatever it is. And that's a conversation to have with somebody face to face. You're never gonna talk somebody into being more liberal or more conservative or Republican or Democrat over Facebook or Twitter or whatever. You're never going to. It's just going to be a heap load of ridiculousness that really most people are not even going to read. So it really is a big waste of time. So if anybody wants to talk to me about politics or any of the conversations that are difficult to have sometimes or uncomfortable to have sometimes, call me up, message me on Facebook. You know what I mean? Let's do a live chat. Or come to my house and knock on my door, and we'll talk for hours about the yeses and the nos, the whys and the why nots, the whatever it is. But putting it on Facebook is for me kind of a waste of time. My second rule is I forgot my second rule. But when it comes to I found it. I got it. I'm sorry. My second point was, if I hear something, whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or CNN or MSNBC or Headline News or Fox News or the local news, and it has something to do with what this person said or that person said, or a political view that is a little tweaky, like COVID. I'll use that example, like COVID. I'll listen to their report, and then I'll go to another source, and I'll see if they say the same thing. Then I'll go to another source. Then I'll see if they say the same thing. If all those sources say the same thing, then it's probably true. If all three sources say something completely different, something's really wrong, and you need to go to someplace, maybe the CDC website, to really figure out what you need to do and what the true thing is. Because unfortunately, the media, while I think the media is the first wall of defense, the first line of defense for politicians who want to lie to us, they also can get things wrong, or also might, in some cases, have an agenda. So I always make sure I check more than one source. That's my second rule. Probably 3 or 4 sources, just to make sure.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Travis Gibb. I like you too. So when it comes to the social media, I actually, for the last 4 years, I was writing on a blockchain-based website. So whatever you put on there is permanently etched on the blockchain. So anybody who's not familiar with that, I definitely say look it up. And for me, it's made me a little bit more conscious about what I put on the internet. And the thing is, I have my professional or more personal sites, the social sites, Mary J99 on Instagram and Twitter, Facebook, that's where most people are following me right now. And if I want to misbehave, I don't post on those accounts because, whether it's building a reputation or anything like that, if I want to misbehave, it's going to be under a pseudonym, and I'm not sharing it with anybody. In fact, I probably blocked a whole bunch of people so that they wouldn't find me. And I don't do that very often. I do that to just be a bitch, whatever, or just blow off steam. And a lot of times I will take on whatever opposing view there is. So if you are right-leaning, I might go left, and vice versa, just to have an argument, because I don't do that very often. I don't do that in real life. I'm not confrontational at all when it comes to stuff like that. So in a way, that troll account is probably part of the problem, but I can't help myself, because it's where I do kind of let loose and I do allow myself to misbehave. That being said, the blockchain-based attitude that I have is, speaking to what Rob was saying, is that people are going to misbehave. They're going to respond badly to whatever it is that you post. They're going to be contrary. And that's on them. And you absolutely have the right to remove offensive, controversial things from your site, because it's your site. That's your home on the web. And however you want to develop it and however you want to clean house. I tend to leave it there, because as long as I'm behaving, as long as I'm not engaging in that kind of behavior, they're kind of outing themselves to be a real jerk. And I've had situations where friends, real friends that I've known since high school, have blocked me, not because of anything that I said, but because they didn't like what was going on in the thread. And I have encouraged open dialogue. I like it. I like seeing the other side. I like to play, as Rob might do, the devil's advocate, because I want to see where that line is with some people. And it's really, I don't have any control over what they do. But if they want to show themselves to be a jerk, then, it's there for the world to see it. And I'm fine with letting them do that. I don't unfollow people. I don't block people generally, because, again, they are putting on their big boy or big girl pants, and they're doing it to themselves. And for the most part, they remove themselves from my feed. I don't have to do the work.
Now we are going to be joined by our good friend. What's going on, Mike?
Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you guys doing? Meredith, good seeing you. David, good seeing you. I was listening to you guys talking about this stuff. I was like, oh man, I need to get in here, because this is something that I served in the military, and you have guys that'll go out and do stuff online and make complete idiots of themselves. And so the amount of times I've had to talk to unit members about this sort of thing, it's just it goes through the roof. And I've got my son here. He's watching some cartoons. But this is a super important topic, I feel, and it's especially so in the industry that we're in, because there's so much drama that's been going on social media, so much nonsense and shenanigans that it's just like, yes, thank you, James. So much nonsense and shenanigans, and it's just a whole thing of there's a line for what we're here to do. Like, yes, obviously we are you're on social media to kind of talk to friends, stay up to date with family and everything. But from a professional standpoint, we are entertainers. We're here to promote our books. We're here to do that, and with that comes a professional image that we need to uphold, and that means kind of taking a back seat on things that we might normally be more vocal about, because that's not what we're here for. Like, I think that if you are able to voice your opinion in a way that's constructive and what have you, that's one thing. I know Rob does it all the time. One of the big things that I really like about Rob is that he's a no-nonsense dude, but every single time he voices his opinion about something, he maintains an aspect of decorum that you don't see in on a lot of other posts. And that's what's important. If you want to voice, if you feel like that there is something that you want to voice your opinion on, that's cool. But you also have to realize, especially from a standpoint of us being, professionals in the industry, that anything that we put on here reflects on us and reflects on our brand, most importantly. And that's one of the big things, and I've talked about it on a few other things. When I graduated basic, my brother gave me this article called "Death of the Quiet Professional," which is all about, because there's a big thing in the veteran community of veterans kind of acting entitled, and the fact that they serve somehow makes their opinion more valid than others, and that's just not the case. And it's something that I have kind of, after I read that, it's something that I kind of put to my own personal philosophy on how to handle myself on social media and everything. And sorry, hold on one second. There we go. And so, yeah, this is something that I wanted to get in on, because it is a very important discussion. There is a line that, we kind of got to establish for ourselves of what we're going to be doing on social media. It's very hard to do. I was dumb and I got into a debate with somebody on Twitter till like 2 a.m. the other day, and I regretted it instantly. Like, I had stayed up to watch Phil Locklear's Milestone show on his YouTube, and I made a comment on one silly thing from a fanboy on Twitter, and it turned into like a 20 post back and forth argument over something dumb. And that's something that's important, that we don't kind of get down to that level. I feel that if you want to have that kind of discussion, propose an actual discussion. But people get really ugly on social media because they think they can get away with it. There's an anonymity that comes with writing in a chat. There's an anonymity that comes from writing in a post. There are going to be people that are going to talk shit about me, talk shit about Rob, talk shit about you, Meredith, Dave, every single one of us here, because they don't feel like there's any consequence. But if you have them on something like this, where you're facing face to face, at the very least, it brings a human element to the equation, and they're no longer comfortable being Billy Joe Badass, that they are in a comment section on a thread. What's happening? Yeah, no.
Good points. Meredith, what do you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback off of that, because I every once in a while, again, it's when I get that burr up my butt that I want to argue, and I go over to my troll account and stuff like that. I do that. I can't help it. It's just a way for me to blow off steam. And again, I said it earlier, it's not helping anything. It really isn't. It is probably making it worse. But most of the time, the way I troll the trolls is, yes, I do engage. And it's time you're never going to get back. But I just can't help it. And I agree with everything, every terrible thing that they're saying about me. I throw them hugs and rainbows and gifts of hearts and unicorns and glitter and all that stuff, and they can't stand it. It drives them crazy. But we'll go on for hours and hours. It's like until they run out of insults. I got
to ask you, isn't there better things you can do with your tongue?
Oh yeah, but like I said, I work all day long, and I'm at my computer all day long. Yes, there are definitely things that sleep is a really good thing to do with my spare time. But every once in a while, it's just that need to misbehave, and again, it's not helping anything. And I know that I shouldn't do it, but it's almost like that anonymity. And this is the second point that I wanted to get to, is that, when you're face to face with a person and you're trying to have a debate or an argument, you can kind of, you get the eye contact, right? So a lot of times you can see if they're engaged. Are they listening to you? On the internet, you don't get that. And so, a lot of times when I'm in a face-to-face debate with somebody and we're having a disagreement, a lot of times when you're watching their eyes, you can see if they're paying paying attention or if they're actually thinking about the next thing they want to say because they're not listening to you at all. When you have that, when you see that, then you're like, okay, you know what? Time to disengage because you're obviously not listening to my side of things. You're only thinking that your opinion is more important and more valid than mine. And so you stop listening. You're only thinking about your next comeback. So we're done.
Yeah.
Online, you don't have the opportunity to do that. You don't see the eye contact. You don't see their mind racing going, what else can I say? What else can I say that, you know, to like, be the troll of the mountain here.
Throw that away.
You know? So at that point, again, I don't apologize for having that troll account because, but I am understanding that, especially here, talking about it out loud, you know, I feel a little bit bad because I'm not helping to make it better. But
Well,
I don't put that on my professional or really my personal accounts. You know, I call them troll accounts for a reason.
Well, one of the other topics I wanted to talk about is ego. And a lot of what goes on online is ego. I can tell you that sometimes my ego has gotten the better of me because I wanted so badly to prove I was right instead of realizing the person I was talking to didn't care about being right or wrong. They just had wanted to say something. They didn't care either about, see, my ego got stuck on facts. I'm very fact driven. I'm definitely a person who lives and dies by facts. If I'm wrong, please tell me why. But I need it to be pointed out to me. I need you to give me something that makes sense. You can't just say because I want to, because then it's just your feelings. And if we're just talking about your feelings, well, I want ice cream. And that's where my mind always goes. Because if we're going to talk about feelings, we're going to talk about, well, then I'd rather just have ice cream. Because if we're here for feelings, then what the fuck are we doing? I'm not dating you. I don't need your feelings. I have enough trouble in dating. That's why I'm single. I don't do well with feelings. I just don't. I own it. I'm not great with feelings. You humans are so weird with your feelings. You don't base anything in reality, and everything you're upset about before you even know anything about it. So I agree with Meredith. I think a lot of people are just reacting, and they're waiting to react. Even worse online, they're just ready to react. Like Michael said, he was up till 2 a.m. fighting with the guy on Twitter because Michael couldn't go, you know what, I got something better to do. And I've gotten really better in life, realizing what's important. And when people are shitty, I always remember you guys. Believe it or not, I remember you guys. 2 things I remember. First off, the more I argue, the more back will hurt. Because stress makes me tighten up. But then I started getting used to dealing with these people, so I no longer got stressed, and it didn't hurt my body. I became immune to stupid. So the second thing I realized was I wasn't promoting you guys. I wasn't advocating for you guys. I wasn't spending time with my son. Instead, I was trying to educate probably a 15-year-old in their grandma's basement who was just mad at the mommy and daddy getting a divorce, or worse, a grown-ass adult who needed to probably go to therapy because they have some real issues. And instead of dealing with them, are going to the internet. Not everyone's like Meredith. Not everyone's just trolling for fun.
Yeah.
People out there are seriously like damaged human beings that when you really look at their profiles, you feel bad for them. You feel like, well, if I throw punches, I'm beating up someone who is damaged goods to be nice. And I am trying to be nice with that. It's not meant as a thing. Because I, in my lifetime, have been damaged goods. So do you guys, how do you personally deal with your own ego? Have you noticed that your ego is getting you into more trouble than it should online?
Well, Rob, I think you hit on a very important point right there. Is that there are so many people that and a lot of people have said it. Just because somebody's done a 10-minute cursory internet search, they think that suddenly they're an expert on whatever the topic is. In certain instances, a lot of the things that they would read on the internet might not be 100% factual. Going to experts who spent their entire life studying whatever it is the topic is, and then still don't believe those experts after 20 years of schooling or whatever, 50 papers written or this much experience doing that thing, they still won't believe. And I 100% agree with you, Rob, that facts matter. I want to know if it's true or not. I know what I feel about things, but the feelings can often get in the way of what is actually true, of what the facts actually are. So if my feelings say one thing, but the facts say another thing, I am more than prepared to change my view on things if the facts point towards that thing that maybe I'm fighting against. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that you can't tell them, you can't show them any amount of proof, any amount of facts, any amount of reasonable conversation about whatever that thing is. They're just going to believe what they want to believe. Maybe it's easier for them. Maybe they you know, maybe they don't 100% understand the situation or the whatever the project, the problem or whatever it is. But there's a lot of people out there that don't pay attention to those, don't care about facts, don't care about listening to people who know the facts. And that's a big problem in our society. My wife and I are both educators, and we say all the time, a lot of these problems are just symptoms of the overall illness. And the overall illness we can easily fix with opportunity, education, and empathy. And a lot of people don't have those things. And I don't mean education like they have to have a PhD or anything like that. I mean just educate yourself
like a
on
basic
whatever the things are.
First, Dave, I wanted to say, I didn't know that you and your wife are both educators, so thank you for what you do there. Probably one of the most underrated roles that is the most important in the nation is preparing, obviously, the next generation to take on the mantle that they need to and make the changes that we need to move forward.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks. And I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, I'm sure everybody here has probably seen it, but you've got the brilliant speech by Charlie Chaplin at the end of the Great Dictator with, you know, more than more than science, we need humanity. More than advancement, we need empathy, right? And like, you know, when it comes down to checking the ego, like Rob was saying, I think that it's very difficult for me because I like talking, I like getting in debates. You know, in college, I went to a school that was very much known for like producing lawyers kind of deal. And so there's a lot of debating societies, and I got really good at it, and it's a lot of fun for me. So it does take me a minute to kind of go, okay, I just need to stop, because like I'm used to talking to people where if I prove my points and I bring up the evidence, then eventually the other side has no choice but to essentially fold. Like there'll be a decision made, and it's going to be like, well, I mean, you presented your argument way better than person Y, so I mean, it is what it is. And so like I worked very hard, and I think probably one of the biggest instances where I realized that was I won't put any names out there, but I was on I was on a page that I really like. It was an exclusive nerd page, and I would constantly butt heads at this guy about Superman stuff, and particularly how he was portrayed in the DC cinematic universe. And we would go back and forth and butt heads about it on this page for months. And then one time it started up again off of a post, and you know, I was putting out these arguments, and he was bringing up the same stuff he had been saying for the past few months. And I was just like, you're not listening. Like, you're not listening to anything that I just got to a point where I was like, you're not listening to anything that I have said, and you're not taking that into account in any of your arguments. And he straight up just went, well, I don't have the time to read your large essay long defenses. I'm like, and I blew up on him. Like he blocked me after it, because I was just like, you've completely I was essentially like, are you kidding me? You can't even hold up none of your defenses matter at this point, because you haven't taken into account anything I said. You are just pushing your own feelings on this without taking in consideration anything that I have put out there, and you're not even trying to advance your own opinions on this. This is ridiculous. And I kept like spam every single time he'd try and comment. I would like spam something obnoxious, and it eventually just got to a point where, you know, he blocked me. And I don't blame him. It got ugly. It was stupid. I certainly didn't make the situation any better. But like as I said, you know, I come from this whole thing where, you know, in order for you to resolve a conflict, there has to be a genuine exchange of ideals. both people listening to what the other person has to say and taking it into account, so that at the end of the discussion, even if both of you guys, even if both of you guys still have opposing views. Hey James, can you calm down for a few seconds? Thank you. Even if you guys still have opposing views at the end of the discussion, they have at least grown. You can still hold that same opinion, but maybe one aspect of the conversation that you had before has changed. I can't give Rob and Varian enough credit for what they did with the Comicsgate discussion between people from Comicsgate and people from the left side that identified as SJW. The way that was handled was brilliant, and I genuinely feel that there were people on both sides that walked away with new perspectives. Sure, there was probably one or two people that refused to hear anything that was said on the other side, but for the most part, when you saw these people interacting with each other, it was a conversation, and that's how you resolve conflict. It's not going to be by a matter of punches. People are just going to be upset at the end of that because somebody got their ass kicked and somebody won. But if you have a conversation of ideals and you set aside your nonsense and you come to a middle ground, that's where you move forward. And so it that's how I've always viewed it. So it is a very hard thing to kind of check my ego, and it's something that I've definitely tried to work on. I know the other night when I got into that silly Twitter thing, there got to a point where just like, there is nothing that I can say to make this guy even remotely consider the possibility of what. And so I just stopped. I liked his last thing that he posted up on Twitter as like a little bit of a, FU kind of thing. And I just posted a comment. I was like, was reminded tonight that Twitter is what it is and that you shouldn't get into debates with fanboys on it. Good night, everyone. Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. So, yeah, no.
Well, as far as ego for me, when I was growing up, I was the weird, awkward, shy kid. I was teased, I was bullied. And, my mother, I love you, Mom, but she is an equal opportunity hater, and I think I'm included in that. So, I mean, seriously. So I learned a lot about trolling and how to not internalize that so much and be so offended by everything, because first of all, it took so much energy, and second of all, it hurt, if I internalized any of it. So I learned to just let it be water off my back. And, speaking to what David and Mike were saying about facts, here's the thing. When I'm online, I do love a good debate. And that's if we're going fact for fact. I have a fact, you have a fact. Okay, we still don't agree? All right, here's another one, and here's another one. And we go back and forth. And it's interesting because these are opportunities to learn if you both have your ears and your eyes wide open. The problem is that when you get emotional and you get away from the facts and you think that your opinion is more important and you start shouting, and then somebody will call me a name. They'll say, oh, you're a racist, or you're this, or you're that. And then I'm like, I won, because they lost the debate when they got emotional and they got away from the facts. And I don't get offended by that. I'm just like, all right, well, you gave up. This debate is now over. So I don't really get offended by any of that. I think that, when they hit that point, if they cannot gracefully say, okay, I've had enough, it's time to agree to disagree and go to our separate corners. If they can't even be graceful enough to do that, and they have to throw out a name just because it's that final parting shot. It's like that last thing that they have to say before they make a grand exit. I'm like, I won.
All right, guys.
Easy.
We're running towards the end of our hour together, so I do want to get to some other points, and we can go around quickly with these points because there are a couple that I do want to get to, so people watching this can actually get the tips they need. And this is an important one, and Michael had actually kind of brought this up already, and this is about behavior that's taught. This is things that we're being taught. We're being taught to argue in this circular, non-descriptive event where, as Michael had said, it's no longer about even listening to the other person. It's, I'm going to tell you I'm right. I'm going to tell you I'm right. I'm going to tell you I'm right. I'm going to ignore every question you throw at me. I'm not going to answer anything that'll prove my side wrong. When you see someone actively beginning to engage in that, understand they're not having a conversation. They're talking to you. Walk away from people who are talking to you because they're just talking to you. Doesn't matter who you are anymore. They've identified that you're wrong and they want to be right, and they're just going to keep talking until they wear you down, like Meredith said. And these are the same people who will call you a name in the end of it because, as Michael said, they kind of get to this frustration point of, well, fine, so I'm just not reading it. And I'm dyslexic, so every so often when I type something, it's hard to read. People make it a big deal. Everyone can read it, and someone will say something nasty about it. And then other people will be like, what are you talking about? It was easy to read. But that causes more fights. Again, look for this behavior as something you don't want to engage with. This person's not seeing you as a human being. You're a punching bag. This is a behavior you have to watch for. Another one is the pile-on. If you ever see someone show up in your thread and tag someone, delete that. When they're just putting someone's name in there, 90% of the time that person is being called to start a fight because the person who tagged them does not want to engage or wants to try to save face. And they know they can send someone else to start a fight. These are negative behaviors. Please do not allow them on your page, as it will just get you more problems that are not worth it. I'm all for debates, like Meredith said. When you want to sit down, have a good conversation, even with Michael, arguing about Superman, there's a point where you just have to walk away and understand they're fictional characters that we're all just giving our opinions on. And we can be respectful of each other and disagree. That's why you have people who are into Marvel or people they have into DC. Don't make it a point where you're disrespecting the human being. And I think a lot of times that's what winds up happening. We're just not seeing a human being. Like, if you can't see the humanity of the person you're talking to, here's a little way to do it. Go look at the pictures they have on their profile. See the human being. See who you're talking to. And sometimes you might run into Meredith's troll account and notice that every one of the pictures is just a troll from the Troll movie. And you'll be like, hey, wait, this person's just screwing with me. They're not a real boy. This is Pinocchio. So do that, and please understand that, and this is important, the truth matters, guys. You're not an expert. No one's an expert, except for the people who went to college. I wouldn't even call myself an expert on comic books. I just wouldn't do it. I'm not an expert at comic books. I know more than some, and I know less than others. And that's just the truth. If someone challenges me, I'll ask them why. I'll give them my opinions, and that's a good conversation. But when someone wants to tell you that COVID-19 is fake, don't go out and tell them that they're wrong and start giving them CNN stuff. 90% of the people saying something like that, they're trying to get you engaged. They want to piss you off. They want to fight. It's the same people who walk into a crowded bar and go, hey, what's that fucking ugly motherfucker over there? And just waiting for someone to turn around. I want you to understand that's what they're doing. They're in the next time you see stuff like that, understand they're in the middle of a bar going, hey, you asshole. And they're just seeing who turns around. It doesn't matter who turns around. They're just waiting for someone to turn around. So please keep that in mind. A lot of people are just reacting online, and they're just trying to start trouble. There are genuine people out there who will wear their heart on their sleeve, and I see that with the way Michael argues. He's very passionate about the things he's passionate about. You can feel that. There's a little bit of intensity that could be intimidating at times, but he doesn't cross the line, like he said, until he feels pushed. And I think that's what comes a lot of it. It's okay to be a passionate person. These are things we're fans of. They are serious to us. We grew up with this. But when someone is not going to listen to truth, when someone starts telling you lies and they don't want to hear it, I literally lived through the Comicsgate thing. I had insider information because of everything I'm going through. And we have people who have come on a program, and during that Comicsgate thing, Michael, I'm sure, saw it. People brought up misinformation. I was like, bull, I was in the middle of that. I saw all the screenshots.
I know exactly who you're talking about, too.
Actually, it was two people. I called two people out, and that was from both sides, actually.
Yes.
when you're not involved in it and you're part of the retelling, there's a lot that gets missed.
Exactly. It's a game of telephone.
Yeah, and I just, that's dangerous. I lived through it. I saw the stuff that was supposed to be there, and it didn't matter in the end. I even said enough. None of this matters. It's not what we're talking about today. We have to remember that. Sometimes people dig so hard into the past to bring up something relevant that it's been so long ago it's no longer relevant. A guy gets fired from the Flash for a tweet from 8 years ago. I sure as hell hope he grew in 8 years. If anyone out there thinks they're not growing in 8 years, they're either 20 and don't understand what 8 years is yet. Because when you're 20, 8 years just doesn't. It's like when I was 8, I was 12. So you're the same thing, you 20-year-old asshole. You're the same little 12-year-old. Oh wait, no, you are, because you don't understand that you grew in 8 years yet. So and again, you see like that when you say something like that and you're sarcastic, you can of course start a fight, or you can elegantly just turn around and go, "Hey, listen, kid. Think about when you were 8 years ago. What you were typing. You're a Justin Bieber fan. Yeah, I bet you feel bad about being a Justin Bieber fan now, don't you? Don't you feel bad?" So, and we all change. We should be changing. We should be growing. We should be personally evolving and becoming hopefully just a bit smarter and just a lot stupider. A lot stupider. Like as we go on to continuously do less stupid is the goal. Because I've watched my son run into a wall. Just did it. He's a smart kid, but there it was. And I figure when he hit the wall, some stupid flew out of him. That was a necessary moment in life. I think we have this idea of trying to get rid of stupid. I think the internet comes with airbags, and people aren't hitting the walls hard enough. Because when you're in real life with someone and you say something stupid, someone can catch you with the hand and you get slapped in the face and punched out. There's real consequences. You can get fired. Someone will yell at you and lose their shit. Because it's, oh, look at this guy, he's all in caps. But if that person went in front of your face, pointing at your chest, and he happened to work out, that might be intimidating to you, and you might pee yourself. I can't tell you in my personal life how people have ran their mouth, seen me, and said sorry when they realized who I was. I'm not even kidding. Someone said, "I shouldn't have talked to you that way online." I was like,
"No.
Who are you? Who the hell are you?" And they knew that someone would tell, and they didn't want to do it. But that's a reminder. You're going to see someone as a human being. Remember, and I say this all the time, we only see each other in excerpts. We see each other in moments of life. We don't see how hard it is for Mike to be doing the overnights and how tired he is when he gets home and he just wants to have a great conversation and be distracted from work so he can wind his mind down. He doesn't want to hear anything stupid. Meredith's had a long day at work. All she wants to do is make fun of you because you don't think the Clone Wars suck. That's it. She has a right. Clone Wars suck. I'm sorry they did. Not the cartoon, but the movie.
That was about to be a whole thing I was going to be hitting you up on. Rob was like, "Hold on 1 second here."
But then you see how he backed down. He's like, "Oh, the movie is." Yeah, I tried.
I'm not going to argue Attack of the Clones. That was.
And David's a teacher. Cool. He knows everything I'm talking about. He's just like, "Yep, I get that, man. Stupid kids, man. I see them all the time. They eat chalk. Where'd the chalk go? I don't know. These kids must have like diarrhea or something. Just eating chalk."
Well, the teacher, you always try to keep in mind you don't know what they're going home to.
Exactly.
That's what, like, if a kid is coming in and he's falling asleep in class, or he's bad mouthing you, or or spouting out things in the middle of class, you try to be. And any teacher says they've never lost their temper is lying to you. But you always try to keep in mind, what are they going home to? What's going on in their life that they feel that they have to do this? And you try to work through it, and you try to make sure you're seeing it from their side also. We're essentially just adults telling them what to do all the time, and that can be tough.
And the last thing is personal responsibility, and then I'm going to open it up to you fine people so we can close out this show today. Personal responsibility is very important. Recently, I took some time when everything started to go away, and I stopped doing the debates right away when things went sideways with our culture, as we had to have serious conversations. And I knew people were going to be angry. But once I stepped away, I suddenly realized how much more time I had in life, how much less I was arguing with people, and how much I liked it. When I became part of Terraform Comics, I realized I was going to be a voice, a leader in this, and people were going to be looking to me for advice. And sure, I can go be the big tough guy in the tank top, and it's just hot in my house today. But I could be the guy in the tank top going around, being all intimidating, or I could be someone who helps build another person. and build them up and take them to a new level. Any day of the week, I want to be the person that helps build people. And that's personal responsibility, understanding the footprint we put around us. Like David just said about being a teacher, having to have that moment where you step back and go, you know what? I don't know what that kid went through. I see him coming in tired. I don't know what I should do next, but I know I have to register that I don't understand this kid. And that's a powerful moment. That's seeing humanity. Personal responsibility is about treating people the way you want to be treated. And I try to always do that. And I try to, even when I'm being a little rough with someone, if I say something stupid, I expect people to push back on me. It's the New Yorker in me. I'm never going to not have that. It's, hey, what the fuck you say? It's just where we came from. It's how we deal with things. But I'm going to try to tone down the rhetoric. I'm going to try to be a lot more, let's put it this way, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to be my own speech writer. And when I have conversations with people, I'm very careful about the words I use now. And I'm going to do that because I want people to feel like I am there to help build them or direct them to the right way. We can't take everyone to Terraform Comics, but I can certainly give an opinion. But I'm only going to give an opinion when someone pays me to give an opinion, which Terraform, because I'm working with them, will wind up doing stuff that eventually through what we're doing. We're all going to grow, and it's a business. Hopefully there'll be some profits. And then the second part of it, I'll do it when someone's sincere. When someone really comes to me and I feel like they really want it. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had. I'm sure you all had this, where someone comes to ask your opinion and then they start telling you why your opinion's wrong. I always cut those people off. I'm like, I'm sorry, did I ask you your opinion today? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then what are you doing? You asked my opinion. You have it. What else can I help you with today? You're not going to change my opinion. And if you handle things like that, and it's a little, curt, it kind of cuts it off a bit. But sometimes it's necessary just to teach people that, hey, this is a boundary. He's right. I don't ask many people there. Even during the debates, I allowed people to debate. People kept forgetting. I never asked their opinion. I just opened up a debate. I wanted facts. And a lot of people got that mistaken and they talked about feelings. So what do you think? We'll start with David. David, what do you think? Personal responsibility. What do you personally suggest to people to do to be more responsible for their social media footprint?
100%. I think, just like you said, that you want to treat people the way you would be treated, and your personal responsibility to getting your opinion out. There's nothing wrong with having your opinion. Nothing wrong with not liking somebody else's opinion. But the personal responsibility for me, at least, is to listen. And if they are saying something that doesn't make sense, say, this is why I don't think that makes sense. Maybe you can explain it to me. It's always, my wife and I talk about it all the time. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. It's that level of I hear you. I understand that you have a different opinion from me, and I want to understand that also. There seems to be in the last, really, I guess since humanity started, those 3 or 4 things that we're not supposed to talk about. And I think that's really been the biggest problem in communicating, is there are those 3 or 4 things that, we don't talk about that. That happens behind closed doors or whatever it is. And I think once people now, fortunate or unfortunate, the internet is bringing those things so much to the forefront, people don't know how to handle it. And myself included sometimes, how to handle those maybe taboo subject, politics, and the other ones that everybody can probably figure out in their brain. But the more we talk about these things, the less emotion can be attached to it. And the less emotion that's attached to it, the more we can cut to the quick. And we can get it right to where it needs to be. And we can really start to figure out problems. The problems that we're having with it, I think most of the time are people, when they hear something that they disagree with, they shut down immediately. And like Meredith was saying, start just calling names instead of listening to what the person says. So for me, personal responsibility is having your opinion, sticking to your guns if you believe that you're right, but also listening to the other person and knowing that wherever they got their information from, they think's credible. So being able to listen to them and going back and saying, I'm going to look into that a little bit more. I hear everything you're saying. I'm going to look into those facts that you talked about and let me get back to you and we'll discuss it even more, instead of just going, you're an idiot and you're wrong and I'm walking away, kind of a thing. So for me, personal responsibility is taking the responsibility of yourself, because like somebody said, you can't control what other people do. It's about taking the responsibility yourself for knowing what you think and why you think, and being able to explain it, but also being able to have your mind open enough to be able to hear what other people are saying also.
Mike?
As far as personal responsibility for me, I think the big thing that I try to do, especially from now, is obviously not get involved in as many of the silly stuff anymore. But like for me, my personal responsibility is I try to kind of stay back unless I see people that I care about getting attacked, or if somebody's getting just absolutely destroyed on something. Like I admin a few pages on Facebook and what have you, and so like I try to be mindful of that, because everybody has an opinion. These are things that everyone is passionate about, but like a part of creating a better environment on the internet where you can have those discussions is having someone moderate and really step and be like, you guys need to back off. Like ultimately that's the big thing. And Dave hit on it. There's these topics that society has always been like, well, these things and wine don't mix. Like these things and an event, you don't talk about certain things at social events and what have you. And I get where they're coming from, but I honestly feel that it's important to have those discussions about those things. You just have to do it in a way that's constructive, mindful, and that is well moderated. I feel like if you want to have a discussion like that, that isn't a bad thing, but you should probably have like a friend or someone not objective about it there to kind of make sure that you're reined in on some things. And I think that the moment that we are able to start doing that, the moment we can really start to kind of push forward, because I feel that there's a lot of silliness that prevent us from really being what we are capable of being without sounding too corny. And I think a lot of it comes from the fact that we don't communicate with one another. We have all these ways to communicate, but we're so focused on what we have to say, what our opinions are, that we don't listen to anybody else's. And we need to start opening our ears. One of my favorite expressions I've ever heard was that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should listen twice as much as you speak.
Meredith?
Yeah, personal responsibility. So I've been doing the whole community engagement thing since the 90s. So before Twitter, before Facebook, when we had like MSN chats and AOL chat rooms and all that stuff. And one of the golden rules, and I'm going to share 3 things, okay? One is sit on your hands. If it creates such an emotional outburst in your head, don't let it translate down to your fingers, and just sit on your hands. The second rule would be give it 24 hours. If it's still a thing 24 hours later, then you've had a chance to kind of think about it, chew on it, and figure out how you're going to respond responsibly. And the third rule would be basically, if you have to type it out, don't hit the enter button. Okay, you can type it out, you can hammer out whatever response you want to do, you can be the biggest troll ever, then delete it. It's probably in your best interest. And then revert back to sit on your hands and give it the 24 hours. That's it. Those are my 3 golden rules for personal responsibility on the internet.
And now the David had said it, and we mentioned a couple times, the golden rule for social media is never talk about politics, never talk about religion, and never talk about basically your sex life.
Yeah.
Is the other one. It's a big one. No politics, no religion, nothing about your sex life. No one wants sex tips from you. And I'm a guy who writes a fetish book. Notice I never talk to people about sex things. I don't. It's not what I do. I write my book. My book itself is a very adult-driven story, but it's done tastefully. Be that person. Be someone who's tasteful. Don't bring up you and your ex's fights online. Yeah. That's personal stuff. Keep that. That's why you have a private messenger. That's why you have a messenger. You guys have got to understand that you are coming across very poorly. we all make mistakes. Look, Lord knows I've probably sent something out in an anger moment that I wanted to take back somewhere, I'm sure. But I've never talked about my ex. I've never talked about Jax in a negative way. I've made a couple jokes at his expense because I understand my child will grow up and very likely find these videos. Remember that. When you're talking about all this stuff, you're being archived. Someone's going to be able to dig through your stuff. And sure, you might not lose a job because you can say that was 12 years ago. But explain to your kid how you were calling their mom a dumb fucking bitch who deserves to die. Explain that to your kid when they're 15 and 16 going through depression. Maybe you need to stop and think about the footprint you're leaving before you, behind you, and the one you want to leave ahead of you. You know, because that's more important than all your bullshit you got going on. Like Meredith said, today's big problem is tomorrow's antidote, if not a joke. Remember that. Life moves quickly. This COVID thing's going to go away, but it will leave damage. Some people are going to need some therapy after this. I'm not picking on anyone. That is a very, very honest thing to say. And Marvy said, I just noticed, sorry. Gary Henderson said, great show as always. Marvy says, hello, everybody. Sorry I'm late. Hope you're doing well. I'm doing okay. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're doing all right.
All right. In my opinion, miserable people don't know how to talk because they don't have a life or they hate the life they have and they're jealous. I love trolls and those miserable people. I don't know if he meant he loathes trolls. They shut up with the truth. And sadly, as we pointed out today, Marvy, that doesn't always work with American audiences. Sometimes the truth is the last thing that matters, and the opinion and the feelings matter more. And look, I'm not trying to pick on anyone. Everyone wants to be passionate right now. This is an election year. We're going through COVID-19. It's just the truth. This shit sucks.
Yeah,
it's gonna suck. But it won't suck is if we spend some more time seeing the humanity. And I do that a lot. And that's something that a few people, Michael included, have always said in public that they admire that I don't pick a side and I treat everyone the same way. And I'm rigid. I'll own my shit. I'm a rigid person when it comes to facts. I like to be educated. I don't like being a stupid person, and I don't like not knowing what I'm talking about. And I know my education, and I'm sure you all, and I'm sorry, Dave, but you have to know this. Some of the education we're given is bullshit in school. Some of it is not the truth. And when we grow up, we're like, wait a minute, Christopher Columbus did what? You know, you're like, oh my God, wait a minute. And then when you find out about St. Patrick's Day, that's an ugly one, kids. You don't know what you're celebrating. You don't know. It's really bad. It's not a good thing. It's horrible, in fact. But I'll let you guys Google and find out for your own safety. And there is no Santa. I'm sorry it had to be said. Worst lie ever. I'm still scarred by that lie. How can I trust my parents after they told me some guy was watching me every day? And then they tell me believe in God. And I'm like, wait a minute. I've heard this story somewhere before. I kid the God. I killed the God. Please. No one has taught me to behave.
Everyone is just going, oh, how dare you?
It was a joke. God gave me the sense of humor. He has to expect it. St. Nicholas, yes, Luke Stone is right. St. Nicholas was real. As a matter of fact, my uncle was named that. And that's kind of how they outed the fact that there wasn't a real Santa Claus in my family, because they're from the old country, the Ukraine, where St. Nicholas is at the region where he's actually from. And the story is there, and it's very true, and it's a very powerful story. And it's actually one I've been teaching Jax for the last couple of years. For those who don't know, there was a real old gentleman who, the story goes, couldn't have kids of his own with his wife, but he always made kids for the villagers around him. There's some argument over what he looked like, but that's the truth, and that's what made him a saint, is that he actually cared about the people around him. Luke could correct me from different versions. I know there are several versions, but the version I heard was that he was this older gentleman who just wanted to take care of the orphans in the town who didn't get anything. And he traveled from town to town to celebrate wasn't the birth of Christ, though. That's the one thing that was a little different. The story I heard was that they were celebrating the winter
solstice, which is what the Catholic when they were kind of doing all the canonizing of the holidays, because according to how it originally is, Christ's birth actually takes place in around like March time frame, because that's when the Ethiopian Orthodox, if you notice, they celebrate on they celebrate Christmas in March.
No, January.
January.
I'm Orthodox. I know. Christmas, January 7th, every year.
Either way, the whole point was they had moved it to the old.
Although you are right, March is really when it would have been.
Yeah, but they moved it to the old winter solstice celebration of Saturnalia and everything like that because people like to party and they didn't want to lose the popular vote on that. Is effectively the reason why they did it.
Yeah. And that's go ahead, Mike.
No, the Saint Nick story rings true with what I've read. So.
Yeah, and it's just what it is. Sometimes telephone game. We don't even know our own history. There's a lot of our history we'll never fully understand, guys. We capture things. We capture bad things happening on videos, and we still have trials where people still tell you what you're seeing isn't the whole story. What you didn't know was this. It's the reality of the world we live in. Sometimes we're never going to be right, but we can always be kind. So do that. Be kind. That's it, guys. Thank you all for spending some time with me. Luke, I hope I did a good job. I hope you're not mad. I hope I'm not. Luckily, if I get fired, it's okay because it's not my show. But I hope I did a good job. I hope I did a good job. All right, guys, we're out. And remember, this is going to be perfect for this show. I'm so excited. Remember to be
a pair. Be professional. Be ethical. Be authentic. Be respectful. Remember, in this industry for comics, be a pair. Art provided by Chris Mad. Look up Chris Mad Art on Facebook today.
And real quick, everyone, tell them where they can find you on social media. You can find me at MrAnderSiN.com, TerraformComics.com, and ComicBookAdvocates.com. Where can they find you, David?
CorrectHandedComics.com and my Facebook page at CorrectHandedComics.
Michael.
They can find me at Twitter on at ElysianFields_0, Facebook and Facebook under 9 Realms Publishing.
Meredith.
Take a look at TerraformComics.com, GeekInsider.com, and WildOneForever.com.
And
remember to be kind and share.